the lightweights overall in the UFC, it's a stacked division. It's got so many good fighters, and you could replace these two guys with two other ones, and it would still be a great, championship fight. I love what the UFC is doing as far as bringing this fight. I think it's a smart one. Especially since they have the Conor versus Poirier trilogy fight coming up in July. But this is a pick'em fight. Either guy can win. Both have their strengths. Both have elements that they're better at than the other guy. The real question is, can you put that guy into your world instead of him putting you into his?
I just don't see how Michael Chandler loses this fight.
Oh, look at you.
I said months ago, like stylistically, the submissions would be there for Charles, but does he have enough strength? The one, and two is Chandler has fought a lot of really high-end jiu-jitsu guys. I don't know if any of them have been as high-end as Charles Oliveira and as sneaky as him. I know like Marcin Held is good.
Goichi
Yamuchi, good. Very, very impressive, very good. But were they quite like on the level of Charles Oliveira? But in that other aspect, to me, Marcin Held and Goichi are bigger than Charles Oliveira. Maybe not as tall, but they're thicker. I think they're just a thicker. They're. I feel like they seem like they're physically stronger.
Goichi is thicker than. Yeah, I would say both are. You're right.
Yeah, they're both like thicker guys. They're maybe pushing around that, maybe an inch shorter or something like that.
Well, you got to figure Charles actually used to fight at 145.
Yeah, I know. That's what my point is. My point is that when I'm getting to that is that Charles, he came up from 45. I don't feel like he's a very big 55 pounder. I think he's had a lot of success because he is very talented. He's very good. Chandler's got to be very careful of the submissions. He can't take any of that stuff for granted, but I don't see him trying to get this fight to the ground. I see Chandler keeping this fight on the feet the whole time and just touching him up with his power.
I think one of the things, somehow, I'm not sure if it's part of it or not, but somehow I think because they have one common opponent. If you go back and you look at the records and everything, and their one common opponent is a guy that Michael Chandler lost twice to, Will Brooks. And Oliveira choked Will Brooks out in the first round, I believe. So if you look at that, Oliveira's looking at that, and that's giving him confidence. That's making him feel good. I'm not sure that he should be looking at it that way. I don't know if that's Michael's a completely different fighter as far as some of the things that he does now than what he did back then. The physical strength of Chandler is going to be the real problem, in my opinion, for Oliveira. Physically, Michael is strong. He's got a great work ethic. He's got a super strong core. He does take damage though, and he does show damage. And Oliveira he's a good striker also. Don't just look at his submission game. He's got knockout power. He can piece you up. He's got, technically good striking. And if he could keep Chandler towards the outside in the striking realm and just start to put shots on him, he could do well against Chandler in the stand-up. And if it gets to the ground, obviously he's got a great submission game. But Chandler has proven that he's damn good with submission fighters. He's got, a lot of wrestlers, when they get on the ground with a good submission guy, they tend to hold and not move their hips. Chandler doesn't do that. Chandler moves. He keeps you in position. He doesn't allow you to get those angles that cause him problems. And he's got a very heavy ground and pound. And if it gets to that point where it's becoming a ground battle with Chandler on top and Oliveira going for submissions underneath, that's not the way for Oliveira to win the fight.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I completely spaced Brent Primus. Brent Primus is a savage on the ground, and he's extremely big. way bigger than Chandler, way bigger than Charles Oliveira.
Yes.
Probably walks around about 205 and makes 155. He is enormous. I don't know how the guy makes the weight, but he's phenomenal off the ground. And I've seen him in Sug. He's armbarred Jake Shields, guys like that. He's had great matches against other top black belts and other top jiu-jitsu practitioners in just grappling.
Yep.
And Chandler was able to weather those submission attempts as well during their second fight. And so to think that Charles, but that's also what I think with Charles is, if he's going to catch Chandler, he's going to catch him in transition. If Chandler shoots and leaves his head in the wrong position, he's going to hit him with that guillotine and potentially get not Chandler to panic, but it can be slapped on quick enough to where Chandler has no way of escaping. I could see that potentially happen.
Sure.
Or some sort of like in a scramble, he's able to transition to the armbar real quick. And
that's not going to happen.
It just catches Chandler off guard. That's the only thing I can think of, because Chandler does tend to posture up and throw heavy shots, and he sometimes will leave himself out of position because he is trying to throw heavy shots.
Yes.
And so if that happens, Charles is very good at his transitions. They're very quick. They're very fast, as we saw with Tony Ferguson. And once it's on, he's good at getting to that point. He's a finisher. You know, we've seen that before in the past. He wasn't able to finish Tony, but it was close, a second or two away. You know, and so Chandler's a different breed, I think, when it comes to defending the submissions, and he will not tap for shit. He will go, basically, I believe he'll go out before he does that. And he may even possibly let the arm break. Who knows? But I mean, there's a lot of things in there that he will be able to try and attack, because Chandler is overly aggressive sometimes. So Charles got to catch him in transition. That's the only time I see him catching him in terms of grappling. I think if he gets to his back, Chandler's very good at wrist control. He's very good at pulling the arm aside. He does his little spin out of there. Oliveira is a next level, though, of getting to the back and attacking from that position. But I really believe I've seen guys figure four Chandler and him still be able to spin within their body. I almost feel like his gut and his waist is bigger than
it is. So it's blocky.
Yeah,
because he's got a very strong core. He doesn't have that bodybuilder looking, waistline. He's got that CrossFit waistline, big heavy core that's very strong, and it works for him. And like you're saying, the one submission that I would look in and say, this is if Oliveira gets a submission win, in my opinion, it's going to be a guillotine.
Yeah.
Michael sticking his head to the side on a takedown, something, or it could be Oliveira landing a good shot and Michael then shooting, with his head in position, grabs the guillotine, and he has got a very good guillotine, arm in guillotine, both of them. He knows how to apply that pressure, and he's good with it. So.
Yeah, the other thing is he's got Charles Oliveira's got the skinnier arms, so it gets underneath that chin. It's gonna be a little bit harder to get out of there. I mean, strength wise, but as long as he's got the proper technique, it can happen fast. And that's the thing. People think like with Brent Primus, he's got big forearms. He's a big guy. Yamauchi, same thing. Big forearms. He's got thicker upper body. In terms of Marcin Held, that's more of leg locks, knee bars, things like that. And that's something that Chandler was able to wiggle out of here and there. But I mean, there was a couple scares there in that fight as well. If Oliveira, you brought up Will Brooks. If Oliveira's taking that fight and trying to compare that's the common opponent, that's a huge mistake.
I know.
Mistake. And the reason why, like you were to touch on what you were saying, Will Brooks is nothing like Charles Oliveira when it comes to fighting. Will Brooks is a mover, a sticker and mover, and outpoint you and make you look bad. But he's not going to go out there and put the tempo on you and try and put the pressure on you and try and go after you. He was faster than Chandler. He was a little bit more athletic than Chandler, and he was able to touch him and get in and get out and stuff the takedowns as well. So he also had Chandler's number. I think, and like we were talking about, is Chandler's at a different place now in his life in terms of where he was then. The confidence is not, confidence is key is in every sport, but in this sport specifically it is. And I think right now Chandler's right on a high. And so I think, I don't know if, I can't see, if it's within the three, I see Chandler getting the finish. If it's outside of the three, it's going to be Oliveira.